All right, on this episode of the LPDS, we're getting into a little bit of airplane etiquette and what people's pet peeves are, what people don't like about what others do on an airplane, commercial airline, when we're flying, and then maybe some tips and tricks on how to combat that, how to appropriately combat that and mitigate that. And then I have a couple of wild stories from my most recent airplane trips on guard duty, so we'll talk about that. Some slight current events, sweet Cage fact, all coming up right now. All right, Jabronis, we're back. Welcome back to Libretti Podcast Diary Show. I'm your host, Libretti. Another great week. Hope everybody enjoyed their week. I sure did. It was very busy. Got a lot to cover. Real good topic today in the Junction about airplane etiquette. So we're going to get into that. That was another emotionally charged up discussion point with the fans. So we'll get into that feedback. And then, of course, my stories that I thought, you only see on like TikTok and Instagram, but apparently this happens in real life. It's not all staged or whatever. So we'll get into that a little bit. I had to shave the beard. People were talking about previously they liked the beard. Most people liked the beard. I didn't hear anybody who disliked it, which is surprising. Had to shave it for guard duty recently. I'm growing it back. Now, I'm growing it back because I'm lazy. All right, it cuts off a tremendous amount of time on my shave schedule each week. I only have to do a little bit of upkeep now with it. But let me tell you something. Beards are not nearly as fun and cool as you think they are. And maybe it's because I've never really grown a beard before. I've always had to shave every day for military stuff. But, they're a problem. And I know apparently women love them. I guess a lot these days anyway. I don't know. I clearly don't know what women like because I don't have women. But they love them apparently. But they itch my face like crazy. You got to get past that couple weeks of just nonstop itching and scratching and dry skin or whatever it is. It gets in the way of things. And it's tough to clean out. Like, if I blow my nose, that's it for the day. I am hammed up for the day, cleaning out the frag, the booger frag from a nose blow or a sneeze. And I mean, I'm firing out waterfalls of stuff out of this schnoz here. It's no joke. It's not tiny little boog daddies. This is the real deal. And it gets stuck in the beard, and you can't feel it or anything. You just know it's in there. So when you go wipe your mouth or whatever, you feel the crumbs of leftover food and whatever it is. It's a lot more higher maintenance than I expected. I thought I was just going to be Joe Cool with a sweet beard, no problemo. Everyone was going to be all over me, but I spend most of my time now in the bathroom cleaning myself out and, being embarrassed by it. But like I said, I'm growing it back. I'm lazy. I don't feel like shaving as much until the next guard duty, so that's what you get stuck with. All right, moving on. I didn't do a lot of current events research this past week. I was kind of taking a break from the news stuff because it's mostly garbage. All right, it's fake important stories just to drum up drama and chaos and division. It's trash. That's what it is. It's trash usually, and I wanted to take a break from it, so I just paid attention mostly to sports and silly things to keep my brain, light and on the humorous side of things. But my one friend, the guy who usually submits my the news updates for me for the Bradley Blotter, a longtime fan and brother in arms, he sent me a video on Instagrams. There's this town in Italy I don't remember the name of the town, but they have this long-standing tradition where they collect their local politicians of the town. Like, I don't know if they have councilmen or county seats or whatever it is that they have over there in Italy. And the citizens, the townsfolk, the residents, take a vote every year of the politician who had the biggest blunder, the biggest mistake, the most embarrassing performance as a politician that year. Then they put that guy or gal in a cage, like a shark cage when people go shark diving, except it's old-timey looking. It's just the straight up and down bars like they did in the Salem witch trials or in Wicker Man with Nic Cage, great film. And they dunk the politician in the river. And the citizens watch and laugh. I don't know if they throw cabbages or tomatoes or anything at the guy, but that is the tradition they have every year. If you jack things up as a politician that year, you're getting dunked. And my buddy asked me, he said, how can we get this in America? And we were kind of thinking about, like, I mean, obviously the politicians would never go for that because they think that they're holier than thou and they never make mistakes and this is an embarrassment and blah, blah, blah. But we come to the realization that a good 95%, I'd imagine, of the politicians that run in this country, the state, local levels as well, any one of us in the Junction can easily overpower and force them into a cage and give them a quick dunk, how you doing? And we would all have a good time. And there's really nothing they could do about it. I mean, most of them are 100 years old. A strong wind would take them out in a heartbeat, and we could just drag them over, their lifeless bodies over into a cage and give them a quick dunk. Now, the thing you got to worry about is that going to give them, like, you know, one of those widowmaker heart attacks or something? You dunk them and they go into shock, and then that's it. They're dead. I don't know, but it's something to think about. Our politicians should be put on blast more than just here on the LPDS for jacking things up. We should have the citizens that voted them in hold them accountable a little bit better. And I think a good dunk tank would be a nice little festive tradition to start holding here in America. So the Italians, they got it right with that one. I mean, most of their politicians and police are corrupt, which is funny to me. So I guess it's like the citizens, like, that's their fake way of showing that they have power and influence, but whatever. It's a fun little update. So that's the only real politics I think I got. What else we got going on? I was doing some World Baseball Classic watching. I don't know if you guys have been watching that at all or paying attention to anything with the World Baseball Classic. I usually don't, but there's been some decent games. The fans have been going wild in there. It's really fun to see that. It's almost like the World Cup where there's horns and vuvuzelas and craziness going on in the stands because everybody from the world is there, you know, showing their fandom. And the people around the world, they have some wild fans for their sports teams, so it's cool to watch. But one thing I want to bring up, again, back to Italy, the Italian team, first of all, they have at least one guy who has a little tiny Italian horn. They call it the cornicello. It protects against the maloichia, the evil eye. They have an Italian horn, like it's like a tiny keychain, but it's on their cleats. They wrapped it into their laces of their cleats for good luck. And then they took a picture of the dugout where Italy is sitting, the team, and they're all holding these tiny little paper cups. And then you catch a glimpse of the background in the dugout itself on the bench. And they have an espresso machine in the dugout during a baseball game. And the coaches and players are taking quick hits of espresso before they're at bats to get that quick charge in them before they get after it. And I thought that was hilarious. And I know our baseball teams do a pretty good job. They have a good, silly, goofy time in the dugouts for the most part, but nobody's putting in full-on Italian espresso machines in there and really going after it. And maybe that's the key to success because they were having a good old time. They were winning when I was watching it last, but who knows what happened to that because I stopped watching after I saw the espresso. So that's that. What else we got? Real quick business update because I know it's accountability buddy time. Still working on the LLC. Got S&P 1, Sausage and Peppers 1 on the case for that. Working with somebody to get the website up and running, or at least functional. I won't publicize it yet until everything with that is squared away. But we're getting it, things are moving and shaking. Okay? It's a lot of work. I am learning a lot as I go. I have a lot of help, though, so I appreciate that. The Bone Crusher has been helping me with logo creation and all that good stuff. And again, I have people I'm consulting with and networking with to find out the other things to do. Because there's a lot of behind-the-scenes things that you don't know about and you don't want to miss because then you set yourself up for failure. And we don't want to do that here at the LPDS. We want to prepare and get ready for battle, if you will. So that's the only update I got for that. And then again, no news. That's it. Breaking from the news. Don't want to deal with it this week. So hopefully that's a refreshing break for you guys. But with that, we'll get into things. We'll step into the cage.
Okay, let's run.
All right. Today's Into the Cage segment is proudly sponsored by The Basement Assistant. Are you an incel who spends the majority of your gifted life in your parents' basement playing video games and shitposting on social media? And you're tired of having to wait for your mom to get home from work just to replenish your Sobeys, your cheesy poofs, and change your diaper? Well, wait no more with the Basement Assistant. The BAD stands right beside you all day long, ready to cater to your every need, like picking up your trash, feeding you 7-Eleven tornado sticks, and holding your bedpan for you while you pee-pee, so you can focus on important things like being up to date on the latest tentacle porno uploads. So to hire a basement assistant today, just call 1-800-USELESS, and if you provide the code BETA with your mom's credit card number, you'll get 29% off your first day, week, month subscription of the Basement Assistant. That's all I got to say about that. If you're lazy, you live in your parents' basement still, might be good to get a basement assistant. I wish I had it when I was living in my parents' basement not too long ago because it takes up a lot of time cleaning up after yourself. And I was not a fan of that, so go get that. All right, Cage Fact. He's on the interview circuit, getting ready for the release of Renfield coming up April 14th, so be ready for that. And one of the interviewers in the thing he was doing was asking him about his previous movies and superhero stuff because he likes superhero stuff. And they asked him about his interest in being in Marvel movies, any future Marvel movies besides, he was in Ghost Rider and Ghost Rider 2 Spirit of Vengeance, and he also was Spider-Man Noir into the Spideyverse. And they asked him any future plans or interest in that, and he said, and I quote, "I don't need to be in the MCU. I'm Nic Cage." And nothing could be more true than that statement right there. Now, he went on to say, I love the Marvel Universe. I'm a big superhero fan, comic book fan. He named his kid after Superman's dad or something like that. His name itself, Cage, comes from a Marvel character. So he said, in a way, Stan Lee is sort of like a pseudo father figure in that regard because he grew up and was raised, on Marvel, DC comic books and all that stuff. So he has nothing against it, but he thinks there's a lot more opportunity for him to grow as a thespian in, like the not private movies, independent films. That's what I'm looking for. Than having to be part of the blockbuster, Marvel movies again. So he doesn't know, like that's not a permanent thing. If somebody offers him a reprising role as Ghost Rider, hopefully he would take it. He also was about to be Superman years ago, way back in the day for a Tim Burton version of Superman. That would have been awesome. But he's Nic Cage. And I wish I was there to hear him say that, because there's nothing more Nic Cage to say than that. Like, I don't need Marvel, which is like the pinnacle of money-making movies these days, because I am the great one. And I thought that was tremendous. So that's the Cage fact. There you go. Moving on over into the Junction. We'll spin the logo up here. Talking about airplane etiquette. Now, I got onto this topic in my head because I had a number of incidents in my flights when I was doing guard duty in Pennsylvania this past week. I had 3 total flights. And I want to say, did I have 3 incidents? Almost 3 incidents on each flight. I think it was just 2 of the 3, so 66%, not bad. Wild stuff that it got me thinking about it, so I was like, well, let me think, first let me see if I'm the nut job here, and then we'll talk about it. So I wanted to bring it to the fans to see what their thoughts on airplane etiquette is when you're flying inside an airplane, like on a commercial flight. What are the things that really grind your gears? And what are the things that you do out of respect courtesies, like the customs and courtesies that you should exhibit while flying commercially these days? So just to make sure I wasn't being like overreacting or anything like that, and I don't think I was, but we'll get right into it. So the first one here, this person said, wear deodorant. Wear deodorant, wear deodorant, wear deodorant. I think she said it like she pronounced it. I don't know if that's the right word. Not announced, not enunciated, but it was very direct. She made it clear. Too many people stink on flights and don't seem to care or notice or anything. They just forget that they're out in public and they're stinking up the fuselage of the airplane because they didn't put deodorant on, didn't shower, whatever it is. Put on deodorant, guys, gals, kids. If your kid stinks, spray him with some Axe or some Lysol or something. But you're in a tight, enclosed space with recycled air. Don't smoke us out with your dirty, disgusting smelliness. So I agree with that one. Thank you for that submission. The next one we got here, let me pop it up on my computer so I'm not looking down like a jabroni here in YouTube land. Ooh, this is a good one. Shoes on. Get your feet out of my space. This is something I never understood. Well, I don't understand it for like logical, normal people, but it makes sense for the people that do it. These are the same people that wear flip-flops and are barefoot inside an airport going through TSA, feet on ground like a disgust door. And then they go into the plane, they take their shoes off, and they're sitting there barefoot, laying around and like putting their feet up on the plane. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. There was a guy on one of my flights. This actually is all 3 flights. Damn it. So my second flight of the weekend, this dude, it was catty-cornered to me, up ahead and to my left a little bit. He took his shoes and socks off to sit down in his on the flight, feet on the ground, on the dirty carpet where people are snotting and crapping and farting and getting their dirt and grime everywhere, and he's there barefoot in the plane. Absolutely disgusting. Luckily, he was in front of me, because if he put his foot on my armrest or in my space, I would have lost it on him. And I wouldn't be able to record because I'd be in jail. I had to get my father or mother to bail me out, and guess what? They're not doing it. So definitely keep your shoes on. Get your feet out of my space. That's disgusting. All right, this next one here. Thank you for that, by the way. This next one here, this person said, when people spill or overflow into my seat. That's a pet peeve that they have. It's usually the fats, all right? They're too big for the one seat, and they're doing a little like spillage over the armrest with their guts. It happens. They can't control it, but in that moment they can't because they spill over. It's a problem. It's annoying. It's got to be annoying for them having the armrest dug into their sides 3-4 hours at a time. But that's the price you pay for being unhealthy. Unfortunately, we have to pay that price too for your unhealthiness. And it's a problem. And then you have the people that are not super fats and obese, and they're just jamming their elbows and arms and stuff over their armrest and into your space because they don't give a shit. And that's another problem too. Just an utter lack of consideration, thinking that they're the only ones on this plane, like it's a private jet or something, and they could do whatever they want. Now, a little piece of etiquette advice that I could give for that is have a little situational awareness of your seating arrangement. Now, one thing I like to do when it comes to seat spillover or whatever, and being mindful of that, is I adjust my mindset to the seat I'm sitting in. If I'm in an aisle seat, I have the room in the aisle to spread the legs a little bit, stick my elbow out a little bit when the cart's not coming. The middle seat person, they can get the armrest to my right or left or whatever, inside the middle of the seat. Same with the window side. I have the window to lean on, to look out, to sleep on, rest on, or whatever. I'll give the middle person the armrest or whatever. If I'm in the middle seat and person on the left or right of me is spilling over into the middle, that's a problem. I'm already jammed up in the middle seat. You're not getting these armrests. You have your space, your extra space on the left and right of you. This is mine. And I'll go to the passive aggressive war with it. I'll stand my ground. That's why I do all these forearm exercises all the time, so I could get strong, so I can hold my ground on that armrest. If you think you're going to push my arm over so you can be convenienced, think again, pal. And there's no moral or ethical qualms about it on my end. I'm stuck in the middle seat. I get those armrests. You get the other amenities of being in the aisle in the window seat. So thank you for that feedback there. I appreciate it. Moving on over. What do we got here? This guy said he's tired of parents not controlling their kids. I couldn't agree more. Now, we understand kids are kids. They're immature. They're going to be loud. They're going to be inconvenienced, and they think the end of the world is here because they can't get their goldfish or whatever it is. But if you're a toddler, what is the age range of toddlers anyway? If you're a kid who can speak and respond to your parents and even walk, then you as a parent have an obligation and responsibility to discipline your kid if they're being out of hand. If they're doing some silly shit, they accidentally kick your seat when they're trying to get comfortable and do kid stuff, things like that, that's one thing. But screaming kids, running around kids, whining the whole time, handle your kid. I know it's easy to say, I don't have kids. It's easy for me to just say, and it's tougher than it looks. You're a parent. I got it. Handle your kid. Or don't fly. If you can't discipline your child and you know they're going to be a problem, don't fly. Now, there's another feedback here from a fan. This is part of, I'll get to this later. It's about babies. But it's the same realm, so we'll talk about it a little bit. I didn't forget about babies is what I'm trying to say here. So we'll get into that in a second here. This next feedback here, this next complaint, pet peeve, is when people are touching everybody else's seat on their way to their seat or whenever they're walking. If they're going to the bathroom or whatever, they're grabbing onto people's headrests and seats and touching them on their quest back to the bathroom or whatever it is. And it's just annoying. A lot of the time, people, especially when they get up, they'll grab the seat in front of them and they'll just yank it back to get their fat ass up out of their seat. And they don't care that they're just completely disregarding the person in front of them or whatever it is. Meanwhile, you have the luggage containers above you that if you watch any respectable flight attendant, you see when they're walking up and down the aisles, if they don't have the cart in front of them, they're holding on to those luggage containers. That's how they brace for turbulence and also are considerate of the passengers in the seats in front of them as they're walking by. So again, have some situational awareness and consideration and see that you can get both things done. You could safely walk up and down aisles and also be considerate of others. They're mutually exclusive. Both can be done simultaneously. I'm getting heated. This is what this does. This is what flying does. Flying used to be an enjoyable experience. I still love the art of flying and being in the air and traveling and this and that. I love airplanes and flying. But traveling commercial these days is just becoming unbearable because the lack of consideration of people. Anyway, the next one here, again, this is part of like the commandments. I'll get into the commandments. You'll understand what I'm talking about in a second here. But the people who crowd the gates as they're loaded up onto the plane. Some call them gate lice or zone lice or whatever you want to call it. But zone crowding, when they say, okay, we're getting ready to pre-board now, and then everyone gets up out of their seats and they all bumblebee over to the front desk area as if it's a race to get to their seat. Now, I know there's some flights that you pay $12 and it's like a bus, first come, first serve on the seats. But still, here's the thing, folks. A, if you're trying to sit somewhere specific or with a partner or whatever, and you're flying on one of these cheap flights that's super cheap for a bus seat, pay the $12 extra for the seat assignment. They all offer those options. Spirit, Frontier, Allegiant, I think. Southwest, I believe, still does. You pay a little extra, and I know you get tricked into thinking, like, I'm not paying extra for this. Pay the extra, you get the seat, you don't have to worry about crowding. For every other airline where your seat is already assigned to you, what are you racing for? Your seat's assigned, it's saved. You have the saved ticket that shows this is my seat. It's reserved for me. No one's going to take it from you. And if they're sitting in your seat, you just tell them, hey, you're in my seat, and they'll get up and leave and go to their seat. It's pretty simple. You're not going to miss anything or lose out on anything just because you didn't crowd and get the first one out of the gate into the plane. And I know there's other people that are going to be like, well, I want to get my bag up in the upward compartment before they fill up or whatever. Another minor inconvenience. If you don't get your bag up there, you either have to put it underneath the seat in front of you or you gate check it for free, and you get it right outside the plane when you leave. Free gate check. Imagine that. People are angry about getting their bags, freely checked. They don't want to do that, so they're going to race and push and shove and crowd to get to the plane first, to get their spot first. It's ridiculous. Anyway, moving on. Here's another one that I have yet to see, but it's disgusting. People clipping their nails on the plane. Now, I'm not going to talk about hands or foot clipping because you know how I feel about the foot stuff, but what are you doing? If you think for a second it's okay to start clipping your nails right next to somebody else like that in an airplane, you don't deserve to fly. You should be on a no-fly list for at least 6 months to think about your actions. That's just disgusting. Nail frag bouncing all into everyone's drinks and snacks, into their eyeballs. It's despicable. Even the idea of just bringing nail clippers on the plane, just like, just in case I need to do it. Like, first of all, there's a bathroom. If you're in a pinch, if you got a hangnail, go to the bathroom to do it. But really, don't do it. Okay? You can wait, again, the 3 hours to get to touch down and go clip your nails then. Just disgusting. Okay? Absolutely disgusting. Speaking of disgusting, farting on the plane. That's the next feedback here. Farting on the plane, not in the bathroom, in your seat, just letting it rip. Again, recycled air, folks. Tight fuselage. Wear deodorant. Stop farting from your seat. If you have bad gas, walk it over to the bathroom and fart in there. Be considerate. Once again, be considerate. I don't know who taught these people that it's okay to act like animals like this. But this is unfortunately a normal thing that goes on in flying these days. Absolutely despicable. Thank you for that feedback, though. The next one here is the people standing up once the plane lands. This person had a problem with it. It's stupid. Where are you going? The door's not open. You can't leave yet. What are you standing up for? Now, it's not necessarily an inconvenience yet until we get into, I'll talk about my story in a second, when it's the convenient and inconvenient for people to stand. It's just, what are you doing? Where are you standing? Like, again, what are you getting a head start for what? Nothing. Doesn't make any sense. But, thank you for that feedback, by the way. We're going to get into the wet cat's feedback. Now, the wet cat, guest of honor over here, he got heated by this topic. As soon as he saw the video, he started belting out his etiquette and customs and courtesies, and he built the wet cat's 10 commandments of flying. Now, he told me, he did gave me a little LPDS caveat that he was so emotionally charged up for the situation that he didn't even finish listening to the video and didn't realize that I was talking about once you're on the plane. So some of his 10 commandments consist of before you get on the plane as well. But I'm going to read them anyway because these are valid 10 commandments here for the most part when it comes to flying in general. Okay, so I'm just going to read them off one by one, and then if I remember, I'll pop screenshots of the commandments up here. But you can also go to the Instagram post and see them in the comments section. All right. Wet Cat's 10 commandments of flight. Number 1, while dropping off or picking up passengers at the terminal, be expeditious in your nature. Never park or stand in a vehicle at the terminal. There's a giant line of cars behind you waiting to drop off and pick up loved ones. Be courteous of them. Absolutely, couldn't agree more. While it is before you get on the plane, again, it's a courtesy thing. Be mindful that you're clearly not the only one picking up or dropping off somebody at an airport. You see all the other cars. You were just stuck in that line yourself. Understand that. Realize it. A quick, how you doing? Pick up, drop off, go. On to the next one. Keep the things moving. Keep the conveyor belt going. All right, number 2, don't be gate lice. We just discussed this. When waiting to board, don't clog up the hallway and gate area by standing in the way. Remain seated until your zone is called. If you want to board earlier, buy a higher class zone ticket. Couldn't agree more on that. Another thing people do is they start lining up, and then they spill the line into the walkways of the airport, of the terminal. So now people walking to their gate can't get through because there's a line on gate 10 blocking gates 11 above. Because people are sheep. They just see the person in front of, I'll just get behind them. I'll just get behind. Just sit in your seat and wait for your zone to be called. Or pay for the higher group zone. Or be disabled. Or have a kid. Or be in the military. Those will all get you on the plane faster. If that's what you really need to do with your life, get on the plane first. Do one of those things. Now, what I will say about that is I think, and this is just on paper, a theory, because they've never tried it in real life before. I think if they reorganized the zones and had people board back to front, it might mitigate a lot of the crowding and the wait times when boarding a plane. If zone 1, if they do disabled people, elderly, people with kids, military, first class first, all that. It's like 10 total people anyway. And then zone 1 is the back of the plane, and then zone 2 forward, and everything moves up to the front. I think that could mitigate some issues in the future of, putting bags in the overhead compartments, waiting on people, crowding, all that stuff. That's just a theory. I would like for somebody to try it one day and see if it actually does work, because you got to put it into practice for it to, see if it's successful. Anyway, number 3, kind of going into what I just said. While boarding, quickly stow your items and sit down. It's rude to make everyone behind you wait while you stand in the aisle next to your seat, taking off your jacket, folding it, standing there, getting your laptop out of your bag, all that stuff. Kind of going into what we just said. Everyone's waiting on you, pal. You're not the only one on this flight. Once again, there are other people in existence that you're now affecting negatively because you're lacking consideration. All right, number 4, babies. If you have a baby, not a toddler, a baby that can't talk, that just cries and craps itself, don't sit anywhere near the front of the plane with a baby you know will cry all flight. Sorry to say this, but stay back in steerage. Additionally, if you're traveling with a small child who actually understands you, do not tolerate screaming of any kind while in the airport or on the plane. Misbehaving children with no accountability from the parents is a cardinal sin. We just discussed that. Couldn't agree more. Again, absolutely correct. If your kid can understand you and speak, there should be zero tolerance for screaming and yelling and running around an airplane or an airport. Discipline your kids. Hold them accountable. And if you have a baby, get to the back with steerage. All right, number 5. Window shades stay down. This is more specifically for daytime flying for sure. With the exception of takeoff and landing, windows should be closed the entire flight during all daytime flights. Bingo. Nothing is worse than trying to take a nap at 7 a.m. while a grown man stares out the window into direct sunlight 30,000 feet above the cloud layer. Generally related, do not leave your reading light on throughout an entire nighttime flight. Respect the business traveler sitting behind you who's just trying to get some shut-eye. Yeah. Now, I will say I enjoy looking out the window on flights for takeoff and landing because I like to see the scenery as you get closer to the ground. If it's a nice day out, takeoff and landing. Or at nighttime, you could see like the skylight, the city skylight or whatever, and it's not as bad. I never turn the light on myself. But you're 30,000, 40,000 feet in the air. There's no clouds blocking the sun. You're just staring at the sun. Okay? There's no scenery. It's just the sun blinding you and everybody that's within, eye shot of that window. Blinding you. Straight sun into your eyeballs. What are you looking at? Especially as an adult. Act like you've been there before. Act like you've seen the sun before. All right, number 6. Use your designated cabin's bathroom and respect the curtain. First-class passengers paid good money to have a lavatory available to them. If you aren't seated in first class, go to the back of the plane or the middle or wherever your designated bathroom is. Again, that's just a courtesy thing. I'm usually towards the middle or back of the plane, so I never even venture over to first class because I know my place in steerage. I paid for steerage. I am steerage. I'll go use the steerage bathroom that's just blown up by some tubbo who ate too much McDonald's before the flight. And I'll wear it because that's what I paid for. All right. Respect the seatbelt sign. Number 7. Not only is it dangerous to move around the cabin while turbulence is possible, sometimes the crew wants you seated so they can quickly move the beverage cart up and down the aisle without someone blocking their way every 3 rows. It's not just about control while they have the seatbelt sign on. It's turbulence. It's consideration for the people who are doing a job for you. The job of the flight attendants is to ensure your safety and convenience throughout the flight. So if you want your Biscoff cookies ASAP and your ginger ale, be courteous of them. Understand that they need to get through. If you want them faster, they need to work faster up and down the aisles. And if there's a jabroni every 3 rows who stops them and makes them backtrack so they can get in and out to the bathroom, even though the seatbelt sign is on, that's a problem. It holds people up. It holds up the people who you're paying essentially to do a job for you and to take care of you. And it's, once again, inconsiderate. All right, number 8, recline as you please. And this is a hot take, but I agree with it. And we'll get into it a little bit here. I'll be doing the same. The seats are specifically designed, to recline back. In fact, newer design seats will move your seat cushion forward as you recline back, therefore not impeding the passenger's knees behind you. That is true, and it also works with the trays on the seat behind you as well. The newer seats, when you recline back, it doesn't shove the tray table closer to the person behind you, and it doesn't shove the seat back behind them either. It all ergonomically works, in harmony so that everybody is convenienced. Why are they putting reclined seat, options if there's a requirement, an expectation to not recline? The people complaining about it have no right to be complaining about it. You know how to combat that? If someone reclines back and takes away your space, you recline back. You got the 3 inches back. And that's all it is, too. We're talking 3 inches of reclinability, practically. And some of the newer seats can recline back further and still allow you the space to conveniently sit, behind that person. So I don't have a problem with that at all. And I know even my buddy McStiff mentioned it too. He said, am I the only one who likes to recline back and take advantage of that amenity? No, you're not. But it's tough when we're being, sullied and censored for taking advantage of an amenity that was built into the flight itself. Okay? We pay for those seats. They recline back. I'm reclining back as well. Unless you're comfortable not reclining. Whatever. Some people are. Sometimes I don't recline back. Sometimes I like a little straight up, how you doing? So there you go. Number 9, after the plane lands and taxis to the gate, I don't care that everyone stands up immediately. I think it's ridiculous, but you do you. What you mustn't do is try to leave the aircraft prior to anyone sitting in the row or rows in front of you. I understand you might have a tight connection, but so do half the passengers on the plane. Make up your lost time by running in the terminal. Yes. Now, we did talk about previously about how stupid it is. What are you standing up for at the end of a flight? We're all, again, going to the same front door. It is kind of ridiculous. It's a waste of time. I have the seat. I'm going to sit there and enjoy the seat for a little bit longer instead of standing on my feet for no reason. But the etiquette breach, again, standard courtesy is you unload from the front to back. The people in the front go, and that's how it works. So when you cut in front of people in front of you, if you start moving ahead of them and making them wait as you pass them by, etiquette breach. We'll get into a caveat about that in one of my stories, so stand by on that, but I generally agree with that. Excuse me. All right, the final one, number 10. Whilst waiting for your baggage at the carousel, stand back about 8 feet from the conveyor belt. This will allow those who actually see their bag to step up, retrieve it, and fall back to keep the thing going, keep the well-oiled machine moving. I don't understand, again, people who jam in front of the conveyor belt of the carousel and then right at the exit where the bags come out, right at the entrance area. The conveyor belt goes around in a circle. Your bag will eventually get to you. Okay? If you have to wait an extra 26 seconds, I think you're going to survive. Okay? And you're making it even more difficult for the whole process to move quickly and efficiently when you're all crowding on the belt so no one can see their bag. And now there's bags just piled up on the conveyor belt because people can't grab them because they can't see them. Okay? You want a quicker, more efficient experience. You have to be part of that effort too. You can't just expect people to do things around you without you being courteous as well. So there you go. Those are the Wet Cat's 10 Commandments. Very good stuff. I appreciate that. And again, I agree with just about all of them with a couple of minor caveats, and I'll get into in a sec. But first, I got a hotline from, I believe, the Bradley Blotter himself. So let's see that here real quick.
Hey, John. Just saw your post up on Instagram. The biggest thing that, grinds my gears when getting on a plane, is before you get on the plane. Why does everybody, crowd around the desk? You know what zone you're being called into. It doesn't magically change. You're guess what? Zone 6 is going first today. It's always, first class, military, ones with kids, business, then zone 1 through whatever. You do not need a crowd. You just cause problems before even getting on the plane. And then additionally, the people that get on the plane before you and you are in the aisle seat, why do you buckle your seatbelt before they tell you to buckle your seatbelt and nobody is sitting next to you? The row is still empty. The plane is full. You're going to have to unbuckle and then stand up, and then you're going to look like an idiot, and you still say, oh, so sorry, didn't know anybody was sitting there. Yes, you did. And keep your shoes on.
Bam. Nailed it. Everything we just talked about pretty much. The buckle thing, though, is another ridiculous thing that people do. They're sitting in an aisle seat. There's nobody in the middle or window yet on a full flight, and they buckle up like cluelessness. Again, cluelessness and lack of consideration is the devil of an otherwise enjoyable travel experience. And then he hit the nail on the head with everything else. Shoes, zone lights, gate lights, whatever it is, crushed it. Thank you for that call. That was awesome. Now, the straw that broke the camel's back to start the topic here for this week's episode. 3 incidences I dealt with. One was the foot thing, where the guy took his shoes off. Disgusting. Luckily, he didn't directly affect me. Otherwise, we would have had a real problem. The other one was an almost problem for me. And I'll get into that right now. I'll get to that one first and then the big one. So I'm flying back from Philadelphia to Houston. And I don't mind doxing myself there on that one a little bit. It's a smaller flight, direct flight, nonstop. That's what direct means. And it's a smaller plane, so there's only 2 seats on each side of the aisle. I believe it's an Embraer aircraft. So each row, each lane is 2 seats on each side. He had to be pushing 600 pounds, 500 pounds. This gentleman, before we get on the flight, he asked the guy at the front desk, "Hey, I have a window seat, but I'm claustrophobic. Can you switch me to an aisle seat?" And the guy's like, "Sorry, it's pretty much a full flight. You can ask the person next to you if they would trade with you. That's all I can do from the front desk here." Okay. He gets on the plane. Now, mind you, I purposely picked my seat. I picked the aisle in the way back of the plane because there's nobody sitting next to me in the window seat. I saw that ahead of time. I was like, okay, there's a chance that in the next 24 hours, no one's going to pick the window seat in the back, so I should be good with a full free row. Not a free row, but a full row to myself. This guy gets on the plane. He goes, I could see him talking to the aisle seat passenger, who's also a hefty woman. Not nearly as hefty as Haas over there, but she says no. Clearly, you can see her shaking her head, no, I'm not doing it. So he goes to get into his aisle seat. He sits in there for about 12 seconds, starts freaking out, and gets up and moves to the back of the plane to talk to the flight attendant back there right next to me, right on my left side in my periph. And I already knew what he was going to talk to her about because I was part of the conversation. I heard it before we got on the plane. And he's telling her, hey, I'm very claustrophobic. I have this window seat. I can't sit in there. I need an aisle seat. If I can't get an aisle seat, I can't get onto this flight. Can you help me out? And she was like, yeah, no problem. Now, the first thing I thought was like, if she asked me to move, I'm going to lose it. Because what do you do in that situation? Do you stand your ground like, no, I picked this seat for a reason. Sorry that I was smart enough to pick my seat according to my claustrophobia issues or lack thereof, and this guy didn't? Or we're both going to the same place, prevent the guy from missing his flight, so, and inconveniencing his life even more so or whatever, and just move the seat, whatever. I was having that struggle in my brain while she was finding people to help, move or whatever. Luckily, and this is, I don't want to give myself too much credit, but I got to give myself a little credit for this one here. Now, as I mentioned before, I switched my seat the morning of the fly-out day. Okay? I originally had an aisle seat in row 18, several rows up, and when I was checking into my flight on the app there for the airline, I saw the back seat, row 23, 24, whatever, the aisle seat in the back, that whole row was open. So I made the switch from that aisle seat to that back exit, not exit row, but back seat area for the extra room, potential extra room. What that did, because nobody else bought tickets for the flight in that 10-hour span or whatever, what that did was that opened up an aisle seat so that big boy can get an aisle seat without having to move somebody from their aisle to a window seat. And everybody was happy. The flight attendant looked at the manifest and realized that the seat was open, and she's like, hey, go and sit here. She had to give him one of those extendo belts. In fact, she had to take the extendo belt from him to give us the little lesson, the quick lesson and safety tips on how to buckle a seatbelt like they always do. And then she was able to give it back to him so he can do the extendo around his 500-pound equator. And he was able to do that. Now, here's why I got mad. Again, in the heat of the moment, before the realization that aisle seat was open, going back to the etiquette breaches, this guy purchased his ticket, okay? When you purchase tickets in 2023, almost 100% of the time, it gives you the option to pick your seat. All right? And very rarely, again, if you pick it last minute, this is where you run the risk. Very rarely do you have to pay extra just for a simple aisle or window seat when you have to choose. Sometimes they have that BS like, this is a main cabin exclusive or whatever they call it, so you have to pay $10 extra even though it's right next to the seat you already have. It doesn't make any sense. It's just a money grab. But you get to pick your seat nonetheless. And this guy knew not only was he 600 pounds and not going to be able to fit on a small aircraft in a window seat, he also knew he had an issue. He had claustrophobia, which is a real thing. It's a problem. I get it. Now, even if he had to pay the extra for an aisle seat, pay the extra, dude. Okay? Otherwise, you're trying to make us pay extra in inconvenience because you're too cheap and you're just hoping that someone will switch with you when you know you have an issue and you didn't prepare accordingly. What you did is he prepared to hopefully convenience himself without having to pay extra to convenience himself and not caring if he was going to inconvenience somebody else and make that move. That's what he was preparing for. So that's what got me all heated, and I was like, I got to teach this guy a lesson. But A, he could have eaten me. And B, again, you don't want to be an asshole to somebody just because they're stupid or they made a stupid mistake. Maybe he made a mistake. Maybe he thought he picked aisle and he accidentally picked the wrong letter. It was tire whatever it was. Give him the benefit of the doubt. Whatever it was stupid. And you don't want to be an asshole and a shitty person to someone just because they're stupid. It's bad enough that they're stupid. They got to deal with that the rest of their lives. All right, so I was going to cut him some slack, but luckily my forward-thinking brain created the solution before there was even a problem, and we moved forward amicably, and we had a good time, and I watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood on the flight. It was awesome. All right, the third story. This is the big one, folks. I had a connecting flight going from Houston to Philadelphia for guard duty. It was connecting in Charlotte. Okay, now, we'll set the stage for you. My flight from Houston got delayed almost 2 hours because of some storms and really shitty weather in the Charlotte area. So any flight that was supposed to go to Charlotte, they held at the airports, and any flight that was already en route to Charlotte, they were circling the wagons and delaying them to land. So initially, all we knew was that my flight was delayed, but my connecting flight still kept showing on time, which means I was going to have a very quick turn between my landing in Charlotte and getting to my connecting flight over to Philly. I already had it in my head, like, oh, they're going to lose my bag. I had to check a bag because of all my military stuff. I was already, they're not going to get my bag in on time, so I'm going to have to show up to work in civilian gear and have to explain myself. But at least I'll be there if I can make my connection flight. As we finally take off, and as we're approaching Charlotte, the flight attendants get on and say, hey, we still don't have a status on connecting flights. We think they're also going to be delayed, but as of right now, they're showing on time. So we have a number of passengers on this flight that have very quick turn connections. So when we land, for all the people who have those quick turn connecting flights, please allow them to go first to grab their bags and exit the plane when we open the door, and then you guys can go if you don't have connecting flights, just so we can give them the best chance to succeed and get to their connecting flight. Got it. Makes sense. Most of the people, in fact, everybody who did not have a connecting flight stayed in their seat, and it was great. I'm in the back third of the flight, okay? I have the connecting flight, one of them. So the plane lands, we get to the gate, and they're like, okay, once again, connecting flights, you can go, please go first. So all of us stand up. And it's very clear we all have connected flight. There's nobody trying to, with the funny business of just standing there just because they're selfish. I'm getting my bag from the compartment, and all of a sudden, I get an elbow to my back. Not an accidental elbow, not like someone grabbing their bag and accidentally, oh, sorry about that. A forearm, like wannabe Heisman push, like truck stick to get me out of the way. And I turn to my left, and I see this 60s or maybe early 70s older guy, shorter than me, if you can believe that, obviously soft. And he goes, excuse me, I have a connecting flight that I need to make. And I go, sir, we all have connecting flights. That's what the lady just said. Everybody who's standing right now has a connecting flight. And he goes, well, I said excuse me. And that's when I lost it. And I was like, thankfully, I can kill this guy with my thumb right now if I wanted to. So I'm gonna get confident. I'm gonna do something that's best for the other people in front of me, because I had older ladies and stuff in front of me, and the thought of him truck sticking them to the ground so he could get to his flight ahead of them, we weren't having it. Okay, so he could get one extra person in front. I don't think so. So I was like, no, sir, we're all going to the same spot for the same reasons as you. And I grabbed the seat to the left of me, and I hunkered down, Popeye forearm on the seat like that, and I stood my ground. And then, in fact, I even had to let an old couple in front of me go because they were waiting to connect, but they were too old and feeble and meek to just aggressively get into the lane. So I was like, go ahead, please. And this guy tried again. He didn't truck stick me, but he did the whole like slow, forceful push. Whereas like when your buddy's car gets stuck in the snow and you're right behind them and you tap them in the back and then you just slowly push them and bulldoze them forward. That's what he was trying to do with me, a slow bulldoze. And again, I wasn't having it. So I was holding my ground. He's bowling me over. My body is going forward. My legs are still, my tree trunks are planted. They're not going anywhere. You saw these haunches. They're not going anywhere. But my center of gravity, my waist, I'm starting to bend forward, and I pull a whap, and I just back my ass into him and let him know who's boss. Now, he didn't get hurt. He didn't fall. Nobody else got affected by it. I made sure I was aware of my surroundings. It was a victimless crime almost, except for him, and it wasn't really a crime because it was more of a self-defense in that moment. And I let him know without saying anything else, because all I said after was, I was like, we're all going to the same place, sir. That's all I said after. I try to keep it as professional as possible, but I let him know, you're not getting through, buddy, okay? This is the rare occasion where I outsize you, outstrength you, and I will best you in a feats of strength right now. If we're just going to get into a fisticuffs, you know you're going to lose this one, okay? I'm younger still. I'm spry and athletic. I'm beaming with confidence. God bless me with a low enough center of gravity that you're not going to take my ass out. So you're going to sit there and you're going to wait the extra 6 seconds it's going to take you to get off the plane compared to me, because you're right behind me. It's not even 6 seconds, 1 second. And at that point, I was praying that he was on the same flight as me, because I was going to make it miserable for him. Luckily, he wasn't, because if I had that opportunity to be a shitty person, I don't know if I would have been able to abstain from that and follow the big three. It was very tough in that moment. But I did get a nice head nod from the lady sitting in front, who was not a connecting flight lady. She was getting out of the lane, out of the seat, to let a connecting flight person go. And when the guy initially pushed me, I accidentally hit her, and she got flustered. And I told her, I was like, sorry, ma'am. This guy's trying to get one extra person ahead. You understand how important I was being sarcastic, obviously. I was like, you understand how important he is, so he's gonna hurt us physically to get to his flight. And then after the whole altercation ended, she gave me a little head nod, like, thank you for your service. And at that moment, I've never felt more like I've actually, served my country proud than in that moment right there. And that's the thing that got me so heated that I was like, what is going on with the airplane etiquette that this is what we come to, where this 60-something-year-old bowl of, like, he looked like a mashed up bag of mango pulp, soft and old. Like, who the hell do you think you are that you think it's okay to be violent with other human beings because you think you're so important that you have to get to your flight that you can just push people and try to get them, like, push them over and not care? Unbelievable. It was unbelievable. You see, though, on the TikTok videos, fans getting out of, or passengers getting out of whack. You saw the one recently where the guy said that, what was his name? Not Baltazar. I don't know what he said his name was. Some whack job on a plane, and then he went over and stabbed a flight attendant and tried to, like, open the emergency door or whatever before they can take him out. Like, the craziness has got out of hand. The inconsideration and the cluelessness have sort of devolved even further into chaos, to the point where people now think it's okay to be violent with others for no reason other than they think they're more important than you. It was wild. And thankfully, this was a little shrimp, like it was Matt Steele's brother or something. And I was easily able to hold down the fort and make sure he wasn't going to do that to other people, especially since 4, 5, 6 people in front of me were all old bags. Okay, and he was gonna be breaking some hips and causing some real damage to these old bastards if he was gonna pull that shit with them, and we weren't having it on our flight. And I think that's all I got on that. So I don't have any other feedback. If I missed something, I apologize. Everyone was great with the feedback. I got it on Facebook. I got it on the hotline and the DMs and the comments of the Instagram stories and the comments on Instagram itself. It was awesome. I even had people talk to me on Xbox when we were hitting the sticks, telling me some feedback. It was great, so I appreciate it. If I did miss it, I apologize. I was just getting it from everywhere, so to speak, and sometimes you miss some of the feedback. So, but thank you guys for that. Before we go, though, the big three. And I feel like I need them more than ever now, especially after that event. Number 1, exercise every day. By the way, for the newcomers out there, the big three are the 3 pillars of the LPDS, the foundation to staying strong and being a better, happier, more positive, kinder person in your life and spreading that goodness throughout. If you really want to truly get better in life, just follow the big 3 and you'll be good to go. Anyway, number 1, exercise every day. Anything you got to do to get the endorphins going, burn the calories, get the body moving, get the heart rate up a little bit in a good way. You'll get healthier, physically, mentally, and emotionally. I promise you that if you exercise every day. And that's a trickle-down effect for the rest of for everything else in your life as well. Number 2, the hardest one to do, the one I almost slipped and missed out on with this old bastard, is don't be a shitty person, be a good person. When the opportunity arises, when your emotions are charged up, and there's the opportunity to be an asshole to someone, easy over there, Randy, be an asshole, be shitty to somebody, and inconvenience them just so you can feel good about yourself, don't take the opportunity. Just stop. Just don't do it. Take a deep breath and omit yourself from the situation. That alone, that inaction right there, just by not doing anything, you are now cutting the negativity of that situation in half. Just by not doing anything. Now, if you're disappointed enough to see a situation where you could be an asshole and you choose to not only not be an asshole, but to be a good person instead, now you're cutting down the negativity and the shittiness even further in that situation. But that's tough to do. I get it. That's why I said this is the toughest pillar of the big 3 to follow. Because when your emotions are charged up, if someone's being an asshole to you, it's so easy to just return the favor. You're like, I'll show that person and I win. You might win that little battle, but the second and third order effects that you've had on the situation make things worse in the long run. Okay? You're just adding to the negativity and the shit in the ether, in the atmosphere there, and you're not teaching anybody around you or that person in particular a real lesson. And then you're also running the risk of, if people see this on the internet, especially out of context, you don't know what's going on, all they see is you being a shitty person. And is that what you want to portray yourself as to others who are important to you? Friends, family, see your shit post or whatever on your Instagram story or Facebook or whatever it is, and they don't know why you're doing it. They just see the shit post and it's like, why is this person being negative? It doesn't put you in a good light. And again, you're not spreading goodness by any means by doing that. You're just making things worse. So don't do it. Don't be a shitty person. Number 3, the most important one that I don't think people understand the importance of this. Some people don't. We here at the LPDS certainly do. Be genuinely thankful and grateful for all the good you have in your lives. Okay? Take the moment in time each day to actively think about at least just one thing in your day, one good thing in your life, and be grateful for it. Whether it's your family, kids, a pet, roof over your head, toilet, whatever, even if it's a simple thing, a new computer, whatever. Think about it in that light of gratitude as opposed to entitlement, and build on that. Eventually, as you build on that mindset, your entire existence is going to be built around that mindset of gratitude. And you're going to end up being a better person for it, to yourself and to others. And then you couple that with not being a shitty person when you have the opportunity to be, and you just take the step back instead, and you minimize the shit in the world, and you couple that with exercising every day so you get healthier physically, mentally, emotionally. Now you're a better, happier person, healthier, wealthier, wiser, more grateful, better human being, and you're spreading that goodness and gratitude throughout the world. And that's the big 3. It's as simple as that. That's all I got today. Thank you guys again. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the push notifications and tell your friends and enemies, and keep me accountable for my business updates so that I'm not shitting the bed, I'm not letting you down, I'm not letting myself down, and we're accomplishing our goals. Thank you guys again. I love you all. Stay strong.